Hi there, I've started recording these in advance, so as I'm sitting down to record this, I've just finished writing What If Goten and Bull Were Born First Part 2. It's a bit weird switching gears all of a sudden, but it helps me avoid falling behind. The last time we left, Gohan and Videl had handily dispatched Frieza and Cold, and delivered their warning as well as the medicine to Goku, and since getting back they'd allowed themselves a week's rest. Frieza hadn't been too much trouble, but they still wanted to be as well rested as they could before they attempted to fight the androids in the past. Trunks seemed interested in asking both Gohan and Videl what his father was like, but neither of them could tell him much. Well, I didn't really have much time to talk to him, Videl shrugged. He seemed to want to keep to himself. He seemed disappointed, but that was all she had. But hey, you're coming with us next time, so you can meet him yourself. Soon a week would pass and the three of them would set off to the past, promising Bulma they wouldn't be gone too long. When they arrived, however, they found the fight had already begun, and everyone was still alive, since Gohan could sense them all. They'd still come across the head of what used to be Android 19, who, of course, none of them recognized.
Who's that?
I don't know, but it's safe to assume we've changed more than we meant to. The trio heard an explosion in the distance, and Gohan quickly came to the conclusion that the fight was still going on. Gohan powered up to Super Saiyan, prompting Trunks to do the same before all three of them took off towards where Piccolo was fighting Android 20. Gero cursed his luck as they came into view. That made 4 Super Saiyans, and he had no idea how strong these other two might be. So, as in the original, he would attack Bulma's plane, using that as a distraction to make his escape. Trunks rushes to aid his mother before demanding to know why his father didn't do anything. Vegeta simply scoffed, ignoring the question, and once Bulma had told them where Gero's lab was, Vegeta immediately took off after the android. Vegeta doesn't actually know who Trunks is, since he didn't come to the past originally, and Piccolo never called him by name. Piccolo did, however, know Gohan and Videl. What was that? What? Those aren't the androids, Gohan? Present Gohan quickly connected the dots, looking at his future self and then holding his arm. He really hoped he could avoid that. No, well, they are androids, but they're not the ones from our time. And who's this? Piccolo had an idea, what with the hair and him being a Super Saiyan, but he wanted to be certain. This is Trunks, Videl answered. Me, Gohan, and Trunks are pretty much the only fighters left in our time.
We don't have time for this. I have to stop my father from getting himself killed.
Trunks took off after Vegeta, leaving Bulma, who'd only heard the tail end of that conversation, quite confused. Father? How old was Vegeta? 10? There was a brief pause and she put the pieces together. If that was Gohan and they had a time machine, then... Wait, Trunks? Present Gohan would be given the job of taking Bulma back to Capsule Corp, whilst the rest of the fighters took off towards Gero's lab. Gero was in a state of panic. 4 Super Saiyans. 4 of them! And Piccolo was a threat as well. If they worked together, they may even overwhelm 17 and 18. So yes, he'd activate 17 and 18, he'd activate 13 and 14 and 15 as well, but he drew the line at 16. My, this is awful rare. What kind of trouble you found yourself in that you need us all? 13 seemed pretty amused by this. While this was going on, the group made it to Gero's lab. If it's that bad, maybe we should activate this one as well. 18 would suggest, but he quickly shot that down.
Are you joking? He'd kill us all!
The twins were insistent, which led to Gero's demise as in the original. The group would bust down the door just in time to see 17 crush Dr. Gero's head. Nasty business. I wasn't his biggest fan either, but that's a little harsh. 15 brushed some oil off his coat. There are even more of them? Gohan gasped as all 5 androids turned to look at them. Like in the original, Trunks attempts to destroy the lab, not succeeding in taking out a single android. 17 and 18 activate 16 before going to find Goku. Vegeta would move to chase 17 and 18, only to find his path blocked by 13. You're gonna have to fight us first, your highness. 13 blocked a punch from Vegeta before kicking him, sending him back a few feet. As this fight kicked off, 17 would turn back. Hold on, sis. I want to see how the older models perform. 18 sighed before deciding to comply. 16 didn't seem to care either way, so he'd just wait, though he was paying more attention to the wildlife than the fight. Vegeta smirked to himself. This android may be worth fighting, at least when compared to 19. Even though this android was no doubt stronger than 19, Vegeta could still break even with the android. Neither fighter seemed to have the advantage. 14 and 15 would attempt to assist 13, but Gohan and Trunks would jump in, taking on the other 2 androids. These androids were pretty strong, sure, but they seemed a little weaker than 13, and they didn't come close to 17 or 18. Gohan would throw 14 to the ground before destroying the machine with a one-handed Besenko, and around the same time, Trunks sliced 15 in half. 13 would catch a kick from Vegeta before punching him to the side, looking at the scattered parts of the other 2 androids. Now that was not a smart thing to do. 13 would absorb the parts of the other androids before powering up to Super 13. This very quickly turned the tide of the battle. Vegeta would attempt to attack 13, who easily caught his attacks before lifting him up and breaking the prince's back over his knee, tossing him aside. Gohan, Trunks, Tien, Piccolo, and Videl would all rush Super 13, but even with the 5 of them, they would find themselves outmatched. 13 was simply too powerful for the group. Trunks attempted to attack the android with his sword, but 13 broke the blade before punching Trunks in the face, following up with an energy blast that sent him to the ground. Piccolo and Tien would attempt to attack him, but he easily caught both of their attacks before sending them both into the mountain face with one ki blast. Gohan would land a few hits on 13, but that's because 13 let him. None of them did any damage. Before Gohan had time to react, 13 hit him with a double X handle, sending him to the ground, before flying after him. Videl would attempt to come to his assistance, but he knocked her aside with one punch before stomping on Gohan's face. He didn't even bother to check if they were alive. He was after Goku, and even if they survived, they wouldn't come after her again with injuries like that. Not bad for a pile of outmoded scrap. 17 quipped, catching Krillin's attention. But if he can do that, that monster's going after Goku? Yeah, unless we find him first. 17 would turn to leave, but would hesitate when Krillin spoke up. Krillin would attempt to convince them that it would be morally wrong to kill Goku, but they didn't really seem to care too much. We can't wait around here. Can't have 13 finding him first. See you around. 18 blew Krillin a kiss before flying away with her brother. Krillin would set to work giving everyone a sensu bean, and once they'd recovered, they'd discuss the next move. If 13's going after him, then we need to move my father somewhere the androids won't look. Like the lookout, Gohan would suggest as he stood up. In that case, I'll take him. I've got something I need to discuss with Kami, Piccolo reluctantly suggested. This wasn't exactly something Piccolo was thrilled to be doing, and he didn't even know if it would be enough to stop Super 13, but it was their best bet. Vegeta still flies off in rage that he lost, but Gohan stops Trunks from following him, saying it isn't worth it at the moment. With that, Piccolo would take off towards Goku House, informing Chi-Chi that he was taking Goku to the lookout so he'd be safe from the androids while he recovered. She looked less than thrilled, but eventually she relented, but insisting that she came with him. So they set off, with Piccolo carrying Chi-Chi and Yamcha carrying Goku. They were sure the androids would check the lookout eventually, but this bought them some time. Trunks, Gohan, Videl, Tien, and Krillin would regroup and attempt to come up with a plan to defeat the androids. I think I've got a way. To stop 13 at least, Videl suggested. I can use the evil containment wave and just seal him away. So that pretty much confirms it. You did train with Roshi, Tien commented. Yeah, in the future. Sorry for lying about that. If we're gonna use that, we're gonna need to borrow a bottle. We can probably get one from the Roshi of our time. Well, Tien hadn't really visited Roshi in a while, but he was sure he still had one. The gang would head to Kame House, and while Roshi was initially happy to meet a young lady, he paused when she asked him about the evil containment wave and explained who she was. Well, you're certainly very powerful. I must have done a bang-up job training you. But are you sure you can use it? If this Super 13 can defeat 3 Super Saiyans, then the drain from sealing him may kill you. Even so, this is the only way. None of us are strong enough to stop him. Gohan hoped it wouldn't come to that, but he understood Videl was prepared for it. Roshi would pause for a moment. Videl seemed to be willing to do whatever it took, so he'd hand her a small bottle with a cork and the seal written on the bottle. As your master, I'm very proud, but I hope you won't have to use it. Back on the lookout, once Goku was somewhat comfortable, Kami would turn his attention to Piccolo. I suppose I can't put this off any longer. I know why you're here, and I am willing, but I am unsure if this union will give you the power to defeat Super 13. Though, if you could spare an hour or two, we may be able to remedy that. Kami would explain the time chamber to Piccolo before agreeing to fuse with him. After the fusion, Piccolo felt more powerful than he ever had before. While he wasn't exactly sure how strong 13 was, at a guess 13 was still a good bit stronger than him. There was something else as well, another threat Kami seemed acutely aware of, but Piccolo would decide 13 was the more immediate threat. So he'd resort to using the time chamber to train for approximately 1 month, giving him time to come to grips with his newfound power, as well as train to improve himself. 1 month in the time chamber is about 2 hours outside, so the group doesn't know about Cell just yet. But also Cell can't find the androids, since he only found them because he felt Piccolo fighting 17. So, what does Piccolo miss being gone for 2 hours? Back at Kame House, Krillin calls Bulma to tell her that they've moved Goku to the lookout, and Bulma informs the group about the discovery of the second time machine. Trunks and present Gohan go to investigate, while future Gohan and Videl stay behind at Kame House in case the androids show up. Trunks would come to the conclusion that it was, in fact, the same time machine, before deciding to investigate Giro's lab, although this time he goes alone since Krillin was still at Kame House with everyone else. He still finds the plans for 17 and 18, and this is where he comes across the embryonic cell. He of course has no idea what this creature is. But he is Bulma's son and she taught him some of what she knew, so he had little trouble hacking into Giro's computer and finding the information on Cell. He is disgusted by what he's reading. Giro was really so focused on revenge he was willing to unleash something like this onto the planet. He'd destroy the capsule containing Cell, making a mental note to deal with the Cell of his timeline as well. Though, if what the computer was saying was correct, the Cell in his timeline was almost ready to hatch. He would destroy Dr. Giro's sublab, computer and all, before taking off to find his father. Goku would wake up while Piccolo was still in the time chamber, but he wasn't too worried. And once he was feeling himself again, he'd go to find Vegeta, Trunks and Gohan, the present Gohan. Although he'd head to Kame House first to recruit future Gohan, who seemed amazed by the idea. A place like that really exists? Then, does it still exist in our timeline? Gohan was shocked they didn't know about this. They could have used it to stop the androids. But, no, I just can't right now. If Vegeta and Trunks go in, and you're at the lookout waiting for your turn, then I need to be here, in case something happens. Me and Videl are probably best suited to giving the androids a good fight. Goku paused for a moment. Huh, I hadn't thought of that. Alright then, you two hold down the fort while we're gone, and when we're done it'll be your turn. Trunks and Vegeta, Goku and present Gohan. Videl realized that she was basically expected to spend an entire year alone with Gohan. That was certainly unexpected, but not altogether unpleasant. She and Gohan went together, but neither party could deny there was some tension there. Videl doubted their close friend status would last 1 year in the time chamber, but she'd push those thoughts aside for now. They didn't have time for that. Goku would go gather Vegeta, Trunks and Gohan as usual, heading to the lookout, but they still had about an hour before Piccolo was due out.
That Namekian is wasting his time. He'll never surpass a Super Saiyan.
Actually, he already did. Popo cut off Vegeta bluntly. He was far stronger than any of you before he even went in there. Vegeta scoffed at this claim, just looking for anything to distract himself. 17, 18, and 16 had made it to Goku's house, only to find that he wasn't there, and a large portion of the wall was gone since Super 13 had gone there first. He had also shown up at Kame House first, threatening to destroy the place if Goku didn't show himself. Gohan and Videl would step up to fight the android, but he didn't seem very worried. And that's where we'll stop for now. So, what do you think? Will the gang not knowing about Cell have any larger effects on the story? Is Gohan's Zenkai from his previous fight gonna matter at all against Super 13? Find out next time. If you like this sort of thing, maybe consider subscribing, or leave a comment since I always enjoy reading them. Anyway, bye!